Shah, welcome to R4E. I appreciate you making time tonight. I know you might be a little jet lagged from your recent travels, and we can dive into that here in a moment. But before we do, your walk-up song we were talking about before we started filming was something wrestling related. Can you tell me about your walk-up song?
Hey, Arjan, how are you? Thank you for having me. Yeah, my walk-up song, I guess if I had to pick one, I would pick Bret the Hitman Hart's walk-up song. I don't know if you remember him from the 1990s, 94, he was pretty big, 95, he was pretty big. From the WWE, I think he went to WCW, he went back and forth. Yeah, Bret Hart, he was my favorite wrestler, so I like his song. He was my favorite wrestler. So yeah, if you had to pick a song, I would go with that.
I like it. And the WWE is really making a reemergence or a surge recently with all the Logan Paul excitement and a bunch of other kind of just broader excitement. I feel like around WWE and MMA, UFC, and all of that. Do you keep up with any of the other fight leagues right now, or
No,
is
I
that
think
just
after 98, I think I stopped. It's been a while for me. Yeah, I haven't kept up, unfortunately.
no worries at all? I'm. It's hard. I mean, there's so many different leagues and fights that are going on. It's hard for me to keep up. I feel like I just am able to see the headlines on ESPN or Twitter or what have you. But nonetheless, appreciate you jumping on today. And maybe just by way of background and introduction for you. So we had the chance to initially connect a couple of months back at the gym, and from there, you started telling me about your journey with Antepes. And maybe for those of you who don't know you, you're the founder and chief design officer of Antepes. And maybe I'll give you a second here to walk the audience through who you are, Shaw, in a nutshell, and maybe the quick high level commercial of Antepes so we can jump in from there.
That's true. Yeah, we met a few months back at the gym, and I tried to sell you a pair of shoes, and it worked. But my name is Shah Behnamian, and I'm the founder and the chief design engineer of the Antepes Muscle Runners. And these shoes are a specific running tool. And if you want to get into the shoes details right now, we can. But to give an introduction, these shoes have a negative heel drop. So they have a positive heel to toe gain of 10 millimeters. So they're pretty much opposite of all the shoes that are on the market right now, opposite to most running shoes on the market right now, because most running shoes on the market have a positive heel to toe drop, but this actually has a negative heel to toe drop. That means the forefoot cushioning is thicker than the back. And there are other design cues in there, many different ones actually that we can get into in detail in a little bit. But yeah, I'm the founder and chief design engineer of Antepes, and looking forward to talking to you about the shoe and why they exist. And as your podcast says, there's a reason for everything. So I would love to talk to you about the reason behind these shoes.
Yeah, let's do it. And maybe we set the stage even further back. So we I think initially connected when I picked up on your accent. I wasn't sure for a little while, but I found out you were Iranian as well. I'm half Iranian, as mentioned. Maybe get us through the journey of from your immigration from Iran to today. And obviously there's plenty of pieces of that journey that we can dive into. But let's start with growing up in the New York area and what got you from New York down to the DC area.
Yeah, we moved to Buffalo, New York in 2000, and so I've been and over there. I played soccer for college, for high school first. I played soccer for high school, then I played for college, and I was the highest scorer. So I was the Golden Boot winner in the league, and yeah, so I've been athletic all my life. I ran in school. I played soccer all my life, and like I said, I played for a 2-year college back in Buffalo, and then moved down here for my PhD at George Mason for electrical engineering, and then started working for the patent office, and got introduced to how innovations are protected. And then later, when I had the idea of the muscle runners here, then I looked into how I can actually secure a patent for my own inventions behind this shoe. So I worked for the United States Patent and Trademark Office for 11 years, and then decided to start my own company. And then I started Antepes. And the first thing I did was actually try to get multiple patents behind it, multiple innovations that go into this shoe. And we can talk about the shoes and what different technologies go into it. We can start with the positive heel to toe gain, which is a 10 millimeter gain. But the thing is, that's not completely new, because in the 70s, there was a shoe called the Air Earth shoe that had a positive for heel to toe gain, but the inside of the shoe was just flat. The purpose of that shoe was to put your foot into a dorsiflexion. That was the sole purpose of that shoe. It was not a running shoe, but this is a running shoe specifically designed to increase muscle engagement, and by doing so, and promote foot running. And by doing so, we found out that increasing the width under the forefoot and elevating the ground clear, the heel surface, and creating a ground clearance helps and promotes forefoot striking. So having the forefoot gain and having an 18 millimeter heel gain, which means the heel surface is elevated from the ground by 18 millimeters, helps avoid heel contact with the ground when you're trying to forefoot strike. And then the technology behind the heel to toe gain is not just being thicker in the front, is also the way the cushioning is positioned, because the cushioning is positioned along the ball of the foot. So as you can see on the medial side, the cushioning starts farther closer to the front of the shoe. On the lateral side, the cushioning starts farther back and is farther away from the front of the foot, just to be aligned with the ball of the foot. So the cushioning is aligned with the ball of the foot to give you the same pressure under the foot, under the ball of the foot, and really ease and create a really nice, comfortable forefoot strike. So we have a force strike technology. So this is the force strike technology. The force strike technology is the forefoot gain plus the way the cushion is aligned with the foot, and the way it creates a nice, smooth ground contact when you're trying to forefoot strike. And we talked about the heel gain, and then there's the heel surface that gets into contact with the ground. So this surface is actually flat for a certain distance, for a predetermined distance, because it's not meant for heel striking, but it's actually meant for giving you maximum grip when you're trying to slow down, or if you're trying to go downhill, or if you want to ease and take away some pressure from the muscles and put that pressure onto your joints, because that's what heel striking shoes do. They take that pressure and put it on the joints, and the muscles feel better, and you think it's easier to run that way because all that shock is not absorbed by your muscles but by your joints. So this is the opposite of that. Most of the shock is absorbed by your muscles and not your joints. But if you strike on the forefoot, and if it's too intensive, you can lower the back down a little bit, and that's what that surface is for. It's not meant for heel striking. So that's why it's flat and it's angled towards the ground contact surface. So it's specifically designed to be at an angle that on the lateral side, it's aligned and tangent with the ground contact, with the ground surface on the lateral side, and on the medial side is also engineered that it's angled towards the ground contact area on the medial side. So we had to engineer that and fine tune that these two surfaces having the same angle would have to align with both sides of the shoe, with the lateral and with the medial side. So you have that natural feel, and you don't feel wobbly when you're trying to lower the heel.
Right. So let me pause for a second, because I want to help make sure the audience is following along with this as well. So, I mean, your sale successfully worked. I have my pair of Antepes here, and I guess the easiest way to describe it for someone that's just listening on audio, it's probably like, you could probably say it's like a reverse heel, right? If you're thinking about a wedged shoe or a wedged high heel that a woman might wear, it's almost a reverse of that. Not obviously as extreme or dramatic, but in a tennis shoe form, you have the more elevated part of the shoe towards the toe, towards the ball of the foot. So I guess at the highest level, the reason for that is to put the pressure and the weight of the run or the movement on the muscular part of your foot, and the kind of physical effects from running that way, as opposed to putting on the heels and the heel and the joints. The other way is that, am I getting that correctly?
No, that's exactly correct. Because if you're trying to avoid heel contact, we try to lower heel contact. This is not really a running shoe for longer distances. This is a training tool for you to utilize 2 to 3 times a week, between 1 to maybe 4 miles for each run, just to get you stronger, to work on your muscles, to work on your tendons, and to strengthen your legs. And then you can use your regular running shoes to run longer distances. But yes, the idea behind this shoe is to eliminate ground count, heel striking, ground contact with the heel. So eliminate or lower heel striking and encourage forefoot striking, because doing that, it really works on your form, the running form. It helps you improve your running form. When you're running, it encourages you to lift up your knees, to do an A skip. It's similar to an A skip. So it encourages you to lift up your knees and lower your foot right beneath the center of your mass. So when you do that, when you pick up your knee and lower your foot right beneath the center of your mass, then you're automatically midfoot and forefoot striking. So you automatically have that perfect foot strike. So forefoot striking is the more natural running form. And that really increases the muscle engagement. It's very muscle intensive. So it helps you grow your, strength and stamina. And you can use that with your regular shoes when you want to run a marathon or something like that. But it's not only a running tool, it's also a training tool. You can use this to do your workout drills for basketball, volleyball, soccer, because it helps you to stay on your forefoot and avoid heel contact. So it really kicks up your workouts up a notch and intensifies every workout you do by helping you and encouraging you to stay on your forefoot. So I mean, I don't know if I told you before, when we talked before, that I came up with the idea when I had foot problems myself. I could really not run for almost 2 years until I started forefoot striking. So once I started forefoot striking, my bone spur went away like after only a few runs. So I had that for a couple of years, and when I started forefoot striking, that went away almost immediately. And then I started looking for forefoot specific running shoes on the market, and I couldn't find anything. And that's when I decided to make my own shoes.
I love it. And again, like we talked about, that's your reason for Antepes R4E, if you will. So for those listening, just to help visualize it, forefoot striking would probably most commonly be visualized or seen as running on the balls of your feet. I know that's not the intent of Antepes, right? But that's the idea, is that you're running toward I guess towards the front of your foot as opposed to on your from heel to toe. And so
the front half, front half of your arch. So ideally you should strike the foot right in on the front half of your arch, and then roll forward towards your ball, and then you keep the pressure on the ball. You use the toes only to stabilize your stance. So yeah, it's from the front half of your foot and towards the front half of your arch. That's when you're ideally supposed to forefoot strike when talking about forefoot striking.
No, it makes a ton of sense. And so you mentioned soccer and how good this tool can be for training for basketball, volleyball, soccer. Basketball obviously caught my attention and I am by no means a runner, and it's really the lowest down form of cardio, that are lowest on my totem pole of cardio activities, but I'm trying to get into it. So let's take soccer, because that obviously was important to you. When you were playing soccer, did you historically have bone spurs in the past that you were fighting against, or any sort of other foot or lower body related injury that really kind of initially incepted you with this idea? Or how did your journey from soccer player to electrical engineer to shoe designer, how did that what's the common thread between all of that?
Well, as a soccer player, I used to have a lot of knee pain. So growing up, ever since I was 11, 12 years old, I had knee pain, because soccer shoes, they just have a hard bottom surface. Like there is really no midsole, there is really no insole, there's only a hard outsole with the spikes on. So running, but the positive side about soccer is that you're running on turf or grass, so it helps with the impact. But still, when you're heel striking, a lot of that impact is absorbed by your joints and not your muscles. So I always had knee issues, but I was a forward striker, so I would always usually stay on my forefoot, because I did most of my runs were sprints. sprinting, trying to make it to the goal. And I mean, I was also the highest scorer. So my job was sprinting and trying to score. So I did not do a lot of heel striking, running back and forth as much as other players. But when I did have new problems. So I guess I didn't have too many problems because my position was a striker. So I had to sprint a lot. So I was not really on my heels too much. So yeah, but I guess naturally, maybe I was always running and sprinting on my on the ball of my foot, on my forefoot. And then when I started running longer distances on my heel, and then the problem started showing up. I guess that does make sense. And then I guess working at the patent office, it really helped me understand the patent system and understand and learn how to protect my own inventions and innovate in the shoe and actually, write up my own patent applications and get my own patents. We have 2 patents on the shoes so far. We're working on getting 2 more, and we just keep on innovating, because there is really no reason for us to exist in the market if we're not bringing something new to the market, if we're not innovating. So the whole idea about behind Antepes is to bring innovation, to innovate, to improve, to present something new to the market that is useful and can be utilized by a certain group of athletes.
Yeah. Now, what does Antepes mean? What is the origin of the name for the business?
It's a Latin word,
okay,
and it stands for forefoot. So it's Latin, so it's a dead language, but it means forefoot. Ante is front, and pes is foot. So Antepes is forefoot in Latin.
Makes a ton of sense. So back to your point about the trade office and understanding the importance and the ways to work with the IP system here in the States. A couple of questions that come to mind for me. So the shoe in and of itself, the design of it and the forefoot striking design of it is very innovative. To your point earlier, there's not many other, if no other, products on the market that are designed in that way. But with that said, I mean, what was that process like? I imagine that the Nikes, Adidas, Pumas, all the big shoe manufacturers, distributors of the world probably have a really close eye on who's who in the zoo when it comes to shoe design. So how were you guys able to work around the players or the incumbents in the shoe space? And with that, have you seen anyone else start to, or is the goal for you to try to get scooped up by one of the bigger players, or how do you guys think about the mega brands in the shoe space right now?
Well, we're in a different niche. So being in the forefoot specific running sector, like in the section, is I guess gives us the freedom to operate, because the big players don't really cater to the forefoot runners, because that's not where the money is. So they make shoes where they can sell like hundreds of thousands of shoes, like heel strikers, because it's just more comfortable and easier to run in. So I don't really think they pay too much attention to us, but they certainly have gotten our shoes and tested them. I know for a fact that Adidas has actually taken my shoe and looked at it in detail. I don't know about the other big brands, but I know also some other brands that have looked at my shoes, bigger brands. I don't know all of them, but I do know by name a few of them that have looked at the shoe. But the thing is, I don't really think they're too concerned, because this is a forefoot specific running shoe, and they have not really entered that segment because maybe they think, there is not a lot of demand in there, or maybe they just didn't think of it. Maybe they just were just too focused on making money with traditional heel striking shoes. But we do see the trend towards forefoot specific running shoes. We have seen actually a couple of Chinese shoe manufacturers that are making some more forefoot specific running shoes. I think one Japanese manufacturer is moving towards that area too, but in the last 6 months or so it's very new. So I have seen some manufacturers and companies that are moving towards that sector, but they're still taking it, they're being very cautious, because there's not a lot of, I think, demand there yet, because when you bring a new innovative product to the market, you would have to educate the public. So they would have, that's what we're trying to do, actually. Maybe they're waiting for us to educate the public about the benefits of forefoot striking. Maybe they want somebody else to do the work first and then enter the market when it has actually grown, because nobody knows really why they should forefoot strike. They don't really know that forefoot striking takes away the impact from the joints and moves that onto the muscles, and thereby strengthens the muscles and the tendons and the joints. So taking the impact away from the joints, it strengthens the joints. And running on the forefoot, it lowers the impact on the lower back. So when you have like lower back pain after running, you would not have that pain when you're running on your forefoot. So we need to educate the public about the benefits of forefoot running. It's not supposed to be maybe something that you do every day, but it should definitely be something that you work into your running routine. And the shoes are not supposed to replace your running shoes, but they're supposed to complement your running shoes and help you to get stronger. So when you go back to your other running shoes, you feel stronger, better, you can run faster, longer, and be a better athlete. So we are complementary shoe manufacturer, but and the thing is, like, we need to educate the public and tell everybody why they would need a tool like this, a training tool like this.
Yeah.
So the education, maybe the big manufacturers are waiting for us to do it, and we're trying to educate as much as we can.
Best case scenario, right? Well, let me ask this, because you mentioned, and obviously you're the chief design officer, and I want to dive into the design in two different folds, one of which being the aesthetic design and one of which being the actual engineering design of it. So for those listening on just audio, in Shah's background, he has a very sophisticated display of different Antepes shoes in the back. And so looking at my shoe in front of me and maybe walking the listeners through this as well, when I unboxed the shoe, there's a couple of interesting pieces that came with it from the aesthetic perspective, and I'll leave you to maybe remark on my anecdotes here, and then we'll have to dive into the engineering of it as well. So the couple of things that caught my eye obviously was the packaging that it came in, being the muscle roller, which I've never seen before, and I found incredibly ingenious. So do you have a patent around that, or what was that process like for you in coming up with that idea?
Yeah, actually do. Yeah, because when I started running on my forefoot, actually it was so calf intensive that it was that I need to figure out another way to recover from the muscle run, from the forefoot run. We call it a muscle run. We call forefoot running muscle running. Actually, with these shoes, running with these shoes, we call muscle running. So after running in these shoes, when I was testing them, we were going through the prototyping stage, and I felt how muscle intensive it is. And I thought to myself, to make this training tool a success, we also need to supply the consumers with the tool to help them prepare their muscles and help them recover from their run, to make it easier to get into the shoes, because the shoes are so muscle intensive, and if you don't recover, if you don't do the recovery afterwards, if you don't prepare your muscles beforehand, you're gonna have a harder time getting used to the shoe. So we thought that we need to supply the consumer with a massage roller. So we call it the fascia crusher massage roller. So we thought having a massage roller with the shoe gives you everything you need to get started with the shoe. So before you run, you roll your muscles, you roll your calves, you roll around your Achilles tendon, you roll around your ankle. So you could roll your quads, your hamstrings, you can roll your lower back. So you're supposed to roll your leg muscles before you run. And after you run, you're supposed to use the massage roller to roll those muscles again. And that really, really helps with running with these shoes, because these shoes are a training tool. They are muscle intensive, and you might get sore after running in them for only a mile. So that's how strong muscle intensive for tool there are. So we thought to make them a success, we need to provide the buyer, the consumer, with the other tool that might not have to make the shoe a success. And then we came up with the fascia crusher massage roller, because the shoe, when you grow your calf muscle, that calf muscle is connected to your Achilles tendon, or the tendons around your knees, the tendons in your ankle, and also there is fascia in our muscles, right? So the fascia can build up pretty fast when you're growing your muscles really fast. So we designed a massage roller specifically that can attack that fascia buildup and really help you recover from your run. And that's how we designed the massage roller here. We designed a massage roller that has a softer surface for really sore, like really tender muscles. You can use it for your calves, for your quads, hamstrings. But then we also designed the hard surface part of the massage roller. And this hard surface is really meant to attack the fascial buildup in your muscles. So the upper right corner, the upper lateral side of your calf muscle, the gastrocnemius, that really can build up, have some fascial buildup. So this is actually specifically built to roll out the calf muscle, especially the upper lateral side of the gastrocnemius. So using this hard surface really rolls out the fascial buildup in your calf muscles. And
Now, Shah, for
the soft surface part could not really do. And we have a patent on this.
It's super cool. Like I said, I was when I got the package from my apartment complex, somebody asked what it was, or somebody asked what was in the box, and I said, oh, it's a pair of shoes, and they were very confused when I said that because of the size of the box that it came in. But maybe for those as naive as I am, what is fascia? What is fascia buildup? How does that occur? I mean, you said it's from you said it could build up anywhere, but what is fascia? Maybe.
Very good. Fascia is it looks kind of like skin, but it's not. It's tissue that is between the muscle and the skin, and is the tissue that cellulizes the muscle. So when you look at the muscle, let's look at beef. When a beef is cut and cooked, you see that it looks like a cellular system. That the separators in that cellular system is the fascia. So the fascia, if not because fascia really has almost, well, it has blood going through it, but the amount of blood going through the fascia is really nothing compared to the amount of blood that goes through the muscle. So by using the roller to push the muscle through the fascia really helps, and also the fascial buildup when that tissue gets thick, rolling that fascial buildup really smooths it out and helps it spread out the fascia. So the two purposes behind using this roller is to thin out and squish that fascia, and also help push blood through that fascia, and push blood through the Achilles tendon as well, because when you're rolling your calf muscle, you're helping your Achilles tendon to recover as well by pushing blood through it and making it a little bit more tender, because it can be really sore and stiff after a long run.
Well,
I hope that explained the fascia a little bit
better.
It's
a little bit of a free nugget of education as well. So, no, I mean, super fascinating, and there's just so much I want to unpack even further. So the last piece I want to note, just in terms of the design, the nuance and the just uniqueness of some of the, and I mentioned this before I started filming, but the attention to detail, even in the sole of the shoe. I mean, really, there's a cool design of some sort of mountainous land. I know one of your shoes is Hawaii blue, if I remember correctly, and there's designs of nature and birds on the heel. When you're, as the chief design officer, are you more on the design aesthetic side of the house, or are you more on the engineering side of the house? Because you're an electrical engineer by trade. Yep. When it comes to shoe design, is that something you've always been passionate about, or is that more, are you more on the actual physiology side of the design?
Well, I always loved shoes, but I was never a shoe designer. And maybe that's why it took us 3 years to bring the shoe to market, because I had to learn everything. And in the end, I couldn't do it by myself. So I have a group of, we're a group of shoe makers, shoe footwear developer, footwear designer, footwear manufacturing companies that we work with. So no matter how much I learned making about shoes, I still needed professionals to help me to fine tune the shoes. So first of all, we really wanted it to be technically perfect. So we paid attention to the technical aspects first. And once we had that Canva, we started adding the design cues to it, like the cutoff logo. We added that to the side, and this flat surface with the logo, we added that later. This other flat surface with 4 strike on it, we added it in there, and there's like a license plate looking logo in the back. And yeah, and the bottom, the design cues came, and obviously after we perfected the shoe and we thought technically it's ready to go. But the technical aspect definitely came first, and aesthetic aspect came in later.
So which
But
part of that
I
design
hope it
process
still, I
I
hope
was saying,
still looks good.
no, I mean it's super unique. What part of the design process though are what was in your skill set or your breadbasket? Was it more on the technical side or on the after the app, I guess post technical side and all the fun stuff?
Both. I mean, I did
Yeah.
the technical stuff, all of it. Then I gave it to the professionals to get it down to the millimeter, how it's supposed to be exactly. But the design, the foot strike design, everything was done by me. The technical aspect, I did all of it. And then I gave it to the professionals to make sure it actually translates well to the foot and to the manufacturing side, so we can actually manufacture it. And aesthetic side, it was also me, but then I worked with designers to make it actually look good. So I had the idea of, hey, let's put the logo over here. It's supposed to look this way. Then we had our forward designer. We had multiple forward designers to make it actually look good on both sides. And I had a designer work on the waves, trees, and the mountains, the bird on the side, which we can't really see on the camera. So I gave him the idea. I told him how it's supposed to look good, and they made it happen. So I had the vision with the design, but obviously somebody had to fine tune it, which was not in my skill set.
Super fascinating. And there are a couple of lessons I would love to explore a little further here. The first of which is around you mentioned earlier you are always interested in shoes and cared about that growing up. And obviously as a soccer player, there were probably a bunch of different cleats that you were passionate about. When you think back to your childhood and even in your soccer career, was there a particular pair of shoes that stood out to you or really was maybe point of inspiration or impetus for this journey that you've been on? Any particular shoe that you can, at least when you think back of the quintessential shoe from growing up, that you can think of?
I don't know. One of the first shoes that I remember having or getting as a gift was a pair of Adidas. I don't know which model it was, but those were really good, lasted really long, and felt really good. And I love those Adidas shoes. And then when I was playing soccer, one of my favorite pair of shoes was by Puma. I forgot the model, but those Pumas were really good, comfortable, lasted a long time. I scored a lot of goals with those shoes. So Adidas, Puma, and yeah, like I guess one of the Jordans is just, I don't want to mention the Jordans because everybody loves the Jordans, but I had a pair of
There's a
Jordans
reason
that I
why though.
love. Yeah, and I used to play basketball in them, and everybody was like, "Why are you playing basketball in your Jordan shoes?" Your Jordans. I was like, "Well, I bought them to play basketball in them, not just to, keep them on the shelf at home." And yeah, every time I played basketball in them, I got like questioned about it.
Well, let me ask you this then, because again, you mentioned basketball. Obviously, there's a huge on ramp that comes with Antepes with the education side of the muscle running, 4-foot running dynamic that comes into play when wearing a pair of your shoes. Say that takes off. Do you have a particular avenue of maybe expanded product line that you'd care about going into first? Obviously, pie in the sky, many, however long down the road that might take, but would you want to go and make a Antepes basketball shoe or an Antepes soccer cleat, given your history, or do you have any sort of future goal or vision in mind for, you're walking down the street, you see someone wearing a pair of Antepes? Do you have any vision in mind for future state of
definitely.
the
We have quite a few products in the lineup right now that we're working on and prototyping. So the next version of the shoe, I mean, we're always going to keep this version, the really calf intensive version, but we're going to make another version that is less calf intensive with a higher heel cushioning, and to also semi allow you to mid-foot strike a little bit more and heel strike if you have to. So, but that would appeal to a broader group of people. So that would really help us to get more brand recognition maybe down the road, because more people can wear those shoes. These shoes are really calf intensive and really limits our target audience. But yeah, we definitely have the less intensive running shoe that we're going to come out probably mid next year, hopefully, or later towards next year. We'll see how it goes with the prototyping and testing. So we're doing that right now, and we have an apparel line that we're working on, and that should be coming out towards the end of this year, early next year. And we would really love to get into basketball shoes, soccer shoes down the road, but we're really focused on forefoot running shoes right now and apparel to support it, to complement it.
Of course, of course. Well, let me ask you maybe this one of these final questions as I'm rounding out here. We're rounding out here. You had a pretty sturdy, steady career at USPTO. You end up, I always say it on the shows, but you took the leap of faith into the unknown, into being an entrepreneur. Obviously, as you mentioned, it took a couple of years to get off the ground and get the technical designs ironed out properly and get from prototype to product. But what was that journey like for you? What was your headspace like at the time as you were kind of teetering back and forth of whether or not you were going to make that jump? Walk me maybe through what you were thinking, some of the thoughts, maybe who was in your quote unquote kitchen cabinet of people that you were walking through this decision with as you were going through it.
Not a lot of people. Obviously, I have my family and my friends and all that, but the thing is, like, telling everybody, hey, I'm gonna quit my job that pays well and provides me with a nice living. Not everybody, obviously, well, actually nobody supported it. You know, everybody was like, you know, you gotta really be sure about what you're doing. But the thing is, like, so that's another reason why from like 2015 or 14, well, 15 until 2020, it took like almost 5 years or so, or 4 years for me to actually, you know, make that leap and start my own company. So it took me a few years to make that change. So I had the idea farther back, maybe around 2015, 14 or so. But I didn't make that leap, and I didn't start my company until like 5 years later in 2020, because I had a family to support, and I just didn't know if I can, you know, support my family going forward once I quit my job. So it took me a few years to save up. So I guess that was the main thing. I had to save up, and once I did, and again in 2018, 19, I wanted to make that leap. I was just not ready mentally. In 2020, I really believed in the shoe, and I knew this is something unique and useful. And in 2020, I finally made that leap and started the shoe company. But it was definitely a long thought process to give up a comfortable job and enter the unknown, and hoping for the best. But the thing is, it was worth it because I really believed in it. And the last 3.5 years have been truly the best years of my life, and I'm not even kidding about that. So I'm definitely, in hindsight, I'm so happy I made that leap forward.
Good. That puts a smile on my face to hear, and probably everyone else's too. And it's probably so validating, especially to your point, after a few years of really kind of going back and forth whether or not you're gonna start the business. And you mentioned 2020, and there's really kind of two time periods in 2020 that you could have launched in. And I have to know, was it pre Tom Hanks getting COVID, NBA shutting down, middle of March, or was it after the pandemic was kind of in full swing? And what was that like?
Yeah, it was mid-May. So when the pandemic started, was about to start, I really started thinking about it. So I really got into that thought process, and I was like, I have to do it now, because this is the perfect time to start a new business. And I mean, it was a terrible time, but it was a good time, because I wouldn't have to worry about going to work. I was like, I'm gonna quit my job. I don't have to worry about going to work and, like, you know, getting sick, getting other people sick, and all that stuff. So I'll stay home and work on my company. So, and other things too. There were other aspects too. I just felt 2020 was the perfect time for me to start a company and just hone down, sit at home, hone down, and focus on the shoes and make this company happen.
Unbelievable.
But it was, yeah, right in the middle of the pandemic. So that in May, pretty much everything was almost shut down, because in June, I remember the streets were completely empty in Georgetown and elsewhere. I drove through Georgetown, DC, and there was like nobody on the street. It was unreal. It was unreal.
Well, I mean, to your point, it was definitely a scary time and a bad time, but I feel as though the entrepreneurs and the individuals that use that time of solitude and seclusion to narrow down on their craft and actually go to market with something, and we talk about a lot on this show how timing is everything and how important it is. But I mean, what a great kind of testament that Antepes is, that you guys took that leap, or you took that leap in one of the most uncertain times of human history, and that's not just a blanket statement. I think that's a close to a matter of fact as you can get. And here you are now to tell the story. So maybe the one other question I'd really have for you is, Rania, what advice do you have for either your younger self or other entrepreneurs that might be on the same path right now? Maybe this is their December 2019 when they're listening to it, and they're just getting close to having that difficult decision with their employer, or they're getting close to wanting to even just get something off the ground, or they had an idea that they've been sitting on for a while. What advice do you have for your younger self and for other entrepreneurs that are in your seat?
I have so much advice, which is equal to zero. I am totally in the middle of this startup struggle. So it's something that needs, I guess, a couple more years to kind of establish itself. The startup needs another year or two kind of to establish itself and see if there's a future for it, if the market really can grow, the audience, the target audience can grow, and the market can be created for this type of running shoe. So I don't want to give anybody any advice, because the future is really uncertain for a startup like mine, and I feel like that advice would be premature. But mentally, emotionally, I think it was the best thing I did. And going back to 2020, I would do it all over. But in 2-3 years, I hope I will think the same way as I do right now. But as a founder who is still trying to grow the business, establish the business, I don't think I don't think I have a valuable advice for anybody, because it's still up in the air. So if we can capture that market within the next couple of years, there might just not be enough room for us to exist. But if we can capture that market and educate the audience and tell them why they need a running tool like this, then maybe I can tell somebody, hey, go for it. But right now, I could only tell somebody, hey, go for it, because you're gonna love doing what you're doing. You're gonna be happy creating something new. You're gonna enjoy every day. You're gonna wake up just being excited to perfect your art, to perfect the next tool you're creating, the next product you're creating. You're just gonna be a better you. You're gonna just enjoy being alive more. I think you're just gonna enjoy every day of your life, I would say. But the outcome is uncertain, but you're gonna be happy. So
that's what I'm looking for, Shah. That's the answer I'm looking for. I love to hear it. I mean, I think you're being incredibly humble. I think that the shoe is terrific. I mean, obviously it's a saturated market, but I believe in you, and I believe in Antepes, and I'm excited to be walking, whether it be in Times Square and seeing a billboard for you all, or I'm watching the NBA when LeBron and Bronny are seeing Messi play and they're wearing the Antepes cleats or the Antepes basketball shoes down the road.
amen to that.
100%, 100%. But with that said, for those who are listening that weren't familiar with Antepes before this and they are now, where can they find you? Where can they find Antepes? How can they go get a pair? Where should we find you?
Antepes.com. If you'd like to give the muscle runners a try, we have a 30-day return policy. Go to antepes.com, ANTEPES.com, purchase a pair. You don't like them, send them back to us. And you can email us or email me directly at info@antepes.com. And I will respond to you as soon as I can. It'll be fast. Shoot me with any questions about the shoes, about anything. I would love to sit down and chat with anybody who's interested in the tools we're providing.
Love it. And I'll plug it in the show notes as well for anyone listening. And Shah, I can't thank you enough for your time. I'll see you in the gym this week, and you can give me some more pointers on forefoot running. But until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of R4E, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.